Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Yale 81-9500-1514 rod guide package. This is shown in the 630 finish and is used in a handful of different devices, obviously surface vertical rod devices. And there is a link below this video to some parts drawings where you'll find the rod guide with its associated or where it occurs from the exit device parts manual from Yale. Just going to remove it from the packaging so that we can take a closer look exactly at what the rod guide is. The rod guide is a device that is required to keep the surface vertical rod in position on the door. Now we're going to have with it, let's take a look here. Rod guide packet, it's referred to. In the parts drawing, you're going to see the FIN reference, which is finish. So on the first and second page, you'll see part number 39 called out there. And you're going to have your item, your guide that's going to be attached to the face of the door. If we were looking at the 2100 series, you're going to have a couple of screws for attaching to the door. They'll be unfinished screws or just black. Then you're going to have the ability to actually, no, that's incorrect. You're going to have two screws intended for a metal application. The black screws are the exposed screws. And then two screws for a wood application. That's going to hold on your guide to the face of the door. Then your finished portion will come over. And that's where the black colored screws will come into play. Okay? And they'll go right into the side on either side of your rod guide. Typical item. They do get damaged. Bottom rods, top rods are going to use this same rod guide for some different series. The 2100 series, the 7100 series, the 7110, 7210, 7170, 2110 series. And, you're dealing with devices that may have had their rods removed or otherwise damaged. Damage is very common. You'll have situations where you need to buy a rod guide because it's missing on the door. And the fire inspector might come through and say, hey, it's missing. I can clearly see it's missing the rod guide. Rendering the door no longer technically fire rated because this would have been included in a fire rated device. So a variety of reasons why you might buy it, but this is what it looks like. A couple of basic dimensions. Overall projection once it's installed looks like it's about 1 1/8 inches. Overall height of the finished portion about 3/4 inch. Height of the mount of the plastic mounting clip about 1 3/4 inches with a width of about 3/4 inch. Okay. Now finally, there is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Yale products that we sell, but a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. But also, interestingly, on that site, you'll find some archival documents, such as very old Yale or Yale in town. Linus Yale Jr. invented the modern pin tumbler system, even though it's understood or believed that he simply worked on the foundation of an Egyptian lock from 4,000 years ago. He was in business with a gentleman by the name of Mr. Town, and they were, captains of the locks of the hardware industry back in the late 19th century, or late 19th century, early 20th century. So a lot of really old catalogs that are there that are just irreplaceable to have access to. If you, have a lock that could be from literally the 1920s, you might be able to find it in one of those catalogs. There's also the cylinder and keying manual that's there, and I've always liked the Yale cylinder and keying manual because they give you an overview of the concepts of master keying, and in particular they discuss the terminology required for level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, and beyond, I believe beyond, the nomenclature that would be used for those types of keying systems, so that if you're relatively new to the industry, that would be a good document to review immediately. It was the one that I reviewed many, many years ago initially, that allowed me to understand what the difference between 1AA and AA1, for instance. There's also a document called Yale Archival Key Section Catalog that just shows a bunch of Yale keyways. In particular, calls out the paracentric E1R keyway, or the para for paracentric, para keyway, para keyway. Paracentric is a keyway that stands alone and no other key blanks will pass into it, and is used exclusively in instances where a multiplex system would be not appropriate. The term paracentric simply means that the vertical center line of the keyway is crossed several times by the profile of the key, and the concept there is making it more difficult to pick, because putting a pick into the broaching of the cylinder, you're not able to physically lift it because you have those wards that are projecting across the center line of the keyway. Exit device and parts exit device and mortise lock parts manual is there. A handbook for architects by Henry R. Town, dated 1904. That's a great document to review. You've got to have an interest in historical aspects of how hardware was worked with over 100 years ago. And interestingly enough, it's important, I think, to know what you're working on today based on where it came from. And a fascinating aspect to a lot of the hardware that we sell today is inherently not very different. So it's neat to be able to go back in time and feel connected to the history of hardware. And that handbook, or a handbook for architects, is an interesting way to review that. Great concept by Henry Town to be able to say, hey, architects, we recognize you're not experts in what we're experts in. You might need to be jacks of all trades in many different aspects of the construction process. Here is something that will help you just as it pertains to what we do. And that document is really a great one to review. Any questions on the Yale 81-9500-1514 and a 630 finish? That is a rod guide, or any other Yale product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.